questions we wrestle with as Christians about who God is, how do we live out our faith, what is the Bible, what is the truth of the Bible, what are we supposed to believe, how are we supposed to live. There are really big, deep questions that we ask each other, that we ask God, that we wrestle with ourselves. And that's why the Cultivate Podcast exists, to help us go deeper in our understanding of who God is, His Word, and the way that He's called us to live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Cultivate Podcast. I'm Charlie Loften, the lead pastor there, and we have with us
Abigail Boone.
Abigail Boone and the pastor.
And the pastor.
So glad that you guys are joining us. I'm the lead pastor at The Grove. We got our creative director and producer here, and we are in the middle of a series where we are working our way through some topics of systematic theology. And we just finished up talking about angels, and we spent time talking about the doctrine of people. And as we always do, after about 6 or 7 episodes in a row, Abigail's question meter just gets full up.
Yeah, I can't hold anymore.
I just got to go. So
Yeah,
we're gonna kick that off by answering some questions. Or I'll say this, I'll promise you this: I'm gonna let Abigail ask questions about angels, Satan, and demons, and answers. I don't know. There may become a point. I would imagine there's gonna be some questions on that list. I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we could talk in circles about a lot of them probably, because some of them are
that's what we do. We have questions and talking in circles and maybe some answers.
Well, I also know I asked you some questions that it's just speculated.
Yeah.
It's not like this is in the Bible as this is
and
why.
I'm really good at taking a question that I don't like.
You can
and
spin
it
it
around to answer the question I wish you would have asked.
Sure.
So we can do that too.
All right, well, let's see what you have for this first one.
Lots of choices.
I think you'll potentially, well, maybe you might like this one.
Maybe.
Why? So we're just talking about angels right now.
Okay.
So angels, it seems like from our discussion, are messengers.
Mm-hmm.
They are waging war for us on God's behalf, to protect, whatever. Why do you think He made them look so scary? That is definitely a
counterintuitive speculation question.
I would never. This is a stupid example, but I would never have a babysitter that was going to terrify the kids.
But that's not what.
I know, but it's just if I'm wanting the person to have a good interaction with the protector or whatever, I wouldn't choose a scary
So what is
being.
the point of the interaction then? They're there to deliver a message.
Yeah.
And if I am a messenger from one group to give a message to a different group, I represent group 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming to group 2 as a representative of group 1, and theoretically, my appearance and my message are meant to reflect.
Do you think God looks scary?
Well, so why are they scared?
Because they look scary.
That it?
That's my interpretation.
They just had a third eye on their head?
Yeah, isn't that kind of what they look? Yeah.
The spider, scary spider.
Yeah.
I get the impression that the scariness is less the fact of some of these weird descriptions, because a lot of the ones, the messenger ones, I mean, most of the weird, biblically accurate angels, and we did this in a series recently, and I found one of those pictures.
Right.
Most of those descriptors are of what Ezekiel or Isaiah saw or John saw in heaven, kind of describing the ones that just seem to be their full job is 24/7 God worship.
Yeah.
Not the messenger ones, because a lot of the messenger ones are described as having the appearance of a man. So looking relatively human.
Okay.
Having humanish-like qualities as opposed to all the wings and 100 eyes and those sorts of things.
Okay.
But even the ones that look like people, the reaction was still, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more, and then I'll keep spinning you around until you fully believe I've answered your question.
Okay.
When Moses would be in the presence of God in the tabernacle when they were coming through in the wilderness, do you remember what he would look like when we would come out?
Edward Cullen. That's pretty accurate, right?
I think
glistening.
Less glistening and more glowing, if we must. More
more neon-y?
more radioactive, probably
okay.
than sparkling like a diamond. I am mad that you made that reference, and more mad at me for knowing the reference.
Well,
I'm disappointed in myself. I should have pretended like I didn't
I don't know what you're talking about.
Reference.
I am
Edward
not a
Cullen.
Twilight fan, but I know all the meme culture of them.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair. Anyways, his face would glow, like his whole face would glow, and it said that he would just walk around with like a towel over his face because it was
too much.
It was too much, and that's just kind of like after brief glimpses of being in the presence of God, Moses' appearance was so overwhelming it was too much. Angels who live 24/7 in the presence of God are just going to have just enough of his reflective glory that it's going to be overwhelming. So I think that there is something spiritually overwhelming about being in the presence of something perfect, and that has been in the presence of the Almighty God. Because you see that reaction all the time. You know, Isaiah gets called up into heaven and he's a room that's full of mist. He can barely see anything, but he can see enough of just kind of reflections of God that he's terrified and says, I shouldn't be here.
It's kind of like an atomic bomb.
Yeah. And then an angel comes who lives in his presence as a representative. I mean, you see a actual representative of the holy God that if you were to see him, you would die. And he shows up, be like, okay, that's a lot. Not because you have tentacles, but because of the overwhelming presence and reflected glory of God.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess...
And again, I would say that that's intentional. Could God have sent them in a way where that got turned off?
Just some Joe Schmo that looks normal.
Yeah. Could he have made him look like Nick Cage? Do you know that reference?
From City of Angels?
Yeah, okay. Could he have made him look? Yeah, absolutely. He could have, but in order to demonstrate and to show a reflection of his character and for them to, he wanted, that's a good headspace to be in. If you're about to get a message from God.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Whoa!
Get your posture right.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey.
Sit up.
But don't be afraid.
They do always say that.
Yeah, so it's all right.
Yeah.
But they're never like, hey, bro, what are you even doing there? Why are you acting like that? No, okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think it was an intended response.
Yeah.
But again, saying you don't really have anything to fear. Even though it looks like you should.
Yeah.
I think that's the appropriate response. And I think that tells us something about the messenger. If we looked at God, we would think it is right for me to be afraid. And then the one who you should rightfully be afraid of says,
don't be afraid.
You don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like pop culture references all out of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. They're asking questions about Aslan the lion, and they ask him, "Is Aslan?" They find out he's lying. They say, "Is he safe?" And they laugh.
Yeah.
No, he's not safe, but he is good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the power of the angels delivering the messages in that way. Is God safe? No. Is he good? Yes.
This is a incredibly niche pop culture reference, but if you rewatch that movie, there's a scene where the three kids, it's been a long time since I've seen this, but the three kids are like standing up on like a rock structure and they turn around and the youngest girl turns around and they didn't edit it out, but her bow and arrow or her arrows nail the other brother in the back of the head. And they just forgot to edit it out or like do a different cut of it. And it's a really funny little small drop in of the movie.
I read that book very recently.
Really?
It's actually very short. I was surprised.
It is, all of them are really short. Yeah. That also reminded me of the countless amount of times that I woke my mom up as a teenager when I got home and I'd be like, don't be, it's me. And she rose out just terrified. Yeah. All right. Well, before we head into more questions, let's get kind of a rundown of the purpose of angels. I was saying that they're protectors or messengers, whatever. If you could list out a couple of bullet points of what the purpose of angels, remind us of that.
Well, their purpose with respect to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the only purpose that they have with respect to us.
Okay.
Messengers. They don't do anything else for us, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they are battling in the spiritual world, which I guess has definitely some benefit to us.
Yeah.
There is a spiritual world battle that is going on, and they are involved in, and they're, so that it seems like in that sense that maybe they're helping to restrain. They're helping to restrain evil. But then the most other popular pictures we get of them and what they're doing are the way that they interact with God.
Okay.
Again, as worshipers, that God has created these beings, and some of them, their full-time job is to be in God's presence and have the appropriate response that one would have who lived 24/7 in the presence of God, which is to, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I mean, we think of them and we use the word angel, which means messenger. We use that word not because that is the primary function of every creature that falls into that category, but again, it is a very anthropomorphic, if you will, kind of not anthropomorphic, but anthrocentric kind of view of it. Well, that's what they do for us, so that's what they are. But angels that don't deliver messages, the cherubim, the seraphim that are just worshiping God 24/7, we still call them angels.
They're still angels, yeah.
But they're not messengers per se.
Okay. Well, so whenever we did that series, that was the first time I'd ever honestly really learned anything about angels other than just knowing that they exist. But it really hyped me up, and I was like, man, these are like the superstars that I should have been aware of a long time ago. And it popped in my mind that, like, why don't I pray for the activation of angels more often? Is that like a crazy thought, or is that even theologically correct way to think about them?
We don't have any reason to suggest that we should be doing that.
Yeah.
But just because something says it should, is say specifically that you should or shouldn't, doesn't necessarily, well, if it doesn't explicitly say I should, then I definitely shouldn't. It doesn't necessarily work that way.
Because you told that story of the guy in the cave that he opened his eyes for a minute to see the amount of angels around him.
But again, that was a prayer to God. God, I want him to be able to see what you see as far as who's on our side.
Yeah.
Right?
But like my brain is like, God, please send 10,000 right now.
And I think I am. We talked about this a little bit recently too in a series that we did on faith, where we're talking about what does it mean to pray by faith. And the further we get from God, I want you to do this work in my life that I know you want to do. I know you want to make me holy. I know you want me to be peaceful. I know you want me to be joyful. The more abstract we are in asking God to do something we absolutely know he wants to do, the more confidence we have. And usually then we kind of move on a spectrum towards less abstract character development things to more, I want you to do this specific thing. And then I want you to do this specific thing in this specific way.
Right.
God, I want you to rescue me from this evil is different than, God, I want you to send a legion of angels to slay the demons who may be within 100 yards of me. I mean, really, that's not the point. The point is, I'm feeling overwhelmed by temptation and evil. God, will you deliver me from evil? That's what I'm praying.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, hey, I'm going to ask God to deliver me from this evil. He probably needs me to help him figure out how to do that. So I'm going to give him some suggestions. That's not really right. What he needs.
Yeah.
And even if he answered that prayer, you would have no idea if he did. God, deliver me from evil. And if you're going to do it in this way, which I think would be epic. And then he does, and then he delivers you in some way. You have no idea.
Yeah.
What he did. And so the more specific the prayer, the more less confidence we have in it. But I'm never going to look at somebody and be like, you should not if you have a specific desire, only good things, I think, come from expressing that to God.
Yeah.
He may put it down and be like, that's not exactly how you should think about this, Abigail, but I think there is thanks for letting me know. Like, thanks for letting me know that's kind of where your heart's at.
Yeah.
I appreciate the heart of that, but I'm going to also, in the conversation, he's going to reshape your conversation. And I think those sorts of do it this way, do this way at this time, I think very often God's responses to that's going to be, remember, we're working on faith and grace here. So could you just think about that? I got you.
Yeah.
But I want you to have less control and more faith.
Yeah. Well, this is not probably a question that massively affects our relationship with God, but where do you think the concept of when we die, we become angels comes from?
I would say it's like when we die, we're going to be in the presence of God. When we die, we're going to be, therefore we're going to be doing a lot of worship. There's already a class of being that's doing that. And so we are going to have similar functions as them. We will be spirit rather than physical. We'll be in the presence of God, worshiping all the time. That sounds like an angel. But that's just because you are similar in function and more closer to them stylistically, I guess, does not make you
them that
being any more than bringing. I
apologize
in advance. Bringing a dog into your house doesn't make him a person, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to feed him like a person. I'm going to treat him like a person. I'm going to give him a name like a person. Doesn't make him a person.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's just something to that. It's like we are going to where angels go and doing a lot of the things angels do, but that doesn't change your species.
Right. Well,
so I think we try really, really hard to make what little we know about the afterlife, we try to make it make more sense than really the uncertain and vagueness that the Bible has around it. And that's just a simple way. And I think we strive for simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just interesting from, I don't remember which episode it was, but talking about maybe limitation is not the best word to use for it because it's still designed by God, but in comparison, the limitation of we have choice and we have transformation, whereas they're just always in that state. It's kind of interesting to think that you would be transformed into that post-death rather than staying in what God designed you to be.
Yeah. There's just no reason to believe that. And I mean, and again, you can be like an angel, but you are a person.
Yeah.
And God would have to transform you into something very, very different as opposed to a person who now exists only as their spirit.
Yeah.
Performing functions of angel.
Yeah. It's really, and you said earlier that the word angel means messenger. And it's funny that we call people, you're just such an angel.
Yeah. I mean,
you're such a messenger.
Well, I mean, there's kind of the etymology of a word tells us something, but then there's also its, usage defines meaning. So angel is a transliteration.
Love that.
Of the Greek word angelos, Angelos. And you take that and put it into English letters, Angel, right? As opposed to alpha, nu, gamma, right? Or whatever. And so it becomes angel, which is just, we don't really know what this is. It's describing some character of being. We don't really have an English word for it. So let's just make up one up, and now we know what's referring to it. And then suddenly that word becomes, takes on the characteristics of what we imagine angels in the Bible are. Oh, you're kind of like an angel.
Yeah.
And so, so the word the words take on different meanings, but yeah, there comes a point where if you know the etymology of the word,
It's
the
funny.
current usage just sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hey, you have a lot of feathery wings and 100 eyeballs, and you
Right.
terrify people when you see them. You're such an angel.
You're such an angel, sweet little angel.
Everybody's scared when they see you.
Right. That's what I mean when I tell people that. It's a sly dig. They just don't know it. All right. Well, shifting a little bit into Satan and demons, one thing that we talked about is that there's kind of three categories that people can think in, that there's the flesh, the brokenness of the world, and there is the schemes of the devil and demons and things like that. So how would you say someone goes about kind of discerning those things? Because it probably could be a crutch of just like, oh, it's just all Satan, or it's just all the world. Like, how do you use discernment to help yourself grow and really like kind of take in those three factors and grow from those three things?
I think what we need to understand at its core is sin comes from me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the only one that has ever made me sin.
Yeah.
Only me. I'm the only one that has ever chosen for me to do sin.
Even with the influence of spiritual forces?
Influence is not the same as choice.
Okay.
You know, you can tell me to do something. You can pressure me to do something. You cannot make me do something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could, I guess, while I am asleep, you know, take my hand and put it somewhere. Like, I didn't put my hand in that cup of water. You put my hand in that cup of water. But that is not what it says that the world or Satan does, with the exception of possession, which is its own category. And I don't know if you've got questions like that on your list, but taking demon possession out of it, they can't make you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for me to understand that at the core, sin happens because I'm making bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
What are the top influences that make me make bad choices?
Mm-hmm.
Now we get into a ranking system. I'm making the bad choices. Me, not the devil, not the world. I made a bad choice. Why did I make a bad choice? I think I have three negative influences on me that are always pushing me towards making bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
In no particular order. The first one, me.
The flesh.
Me.
Is what it
which
talks.
for the flesh.
Yeah.
Me, which is also me. I am without any influence at all. I am capable of on my own, in a box, by myself, no worldly influence around me, could somehow make it demon free. I'm still like, you know what?
You still have those motives.
I hate people.
Sure.
Right? I'm capable of all sorts of hate. And I think that again, we talked about this a little bit in our anthropology series. You know, I am beautifully and wonderfully made by God. I'm also a sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Putting those two things together, like, just because I'm saying I am capable of on my own of making really bad choices doesn't necessarily mean I have to have a low self-esteem or believe that God hates me. It's just real. There's nothing. Well, if you think about that too much, you're going to go into a bad place.
Right.
Correct. But it is still true. Okay. Me, I'm a bad influence on me. The system of the world, and demons. And so what I need to do is, like, I could spend a whole lot of time, and some people do this, trying to figure out, okay, well, that one particular decision I made yesterday, where did that come from? And I got, it was, you know, and maybe there is some benefit of that. And I think there is some benefit of, like, I was in a bad place. How did I get there? But I think in general, we just need to be mindful. There are three things that could get you at any given time. And I just want to be careful. I want to be careful of that. And so I've got a strategy for each one. I talk back to the bad voices in my head. I'm constantly looking for advice outside of myself from people. I'm getting in the Word to kind of combat the things that I think. I am aware of the world, and so I take it in small doses. I don't overly consume secular news. I mean, that's going to feel like I'm taking a shot at a particular group of people, but all of you do it, no matter liberal or conservative. I'm not, because not only it's trying to shape our values. There is a system out there that's trying to tell you what the most important issue in the world today is.
Right.
The most important worship. If you got on the news right now, the most important thing that is going on in the world right now is whether or not there are too many people living in America who got here illegally.
Right.
Is that the most important thing that on the heart of God?
Right.
No.
It's just world news.
But it's like, and once they get you in, depending on which way you want to go on it, now there are enemies.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, your heart has gone someplace very different. And I'm not living out God's priorities. I'm living out the priorities of whatever this collective group is that tells us what the latest outrage is. And now I'm just becoming an angrier person. Maybe there's some examples out there that are counter to that, but there are, but most people who are consumed by that are some of the angriest people.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's just one example of what the world, you guard against that. I need to know what's going on there. I live in this world.
Yeah.
I vote in this world. I interact with people who are very political, and I interact with people who live here illegally.
Yeah.
And so I need to know who I'm supposed to be in that situation. That's not the same as I'm going to let those values creep in. And in the spiritual world, it's very clear what God, Ephesians 6 tells us, kind of here's how you protect yourself against that.
You're skipping ahead.
Do what?
You're skipping ahead.
Am I?
I have a question about that.
So then there are things I need to do about that. And so I'm aware that there are 3 threats, and I have active strategies for all 3 of them. But again, at its core, I recognize I am the problem. I'm not offloading the problem. I am the problem, and I have these 3 threats.
Yeah. I like that kind of layout of understanding the influences, and you can just passively let them go past you, but you also can be active and try and pursue God in all of those areas, but being able to root it back to the simple, I think is really helpful.
So you've got to drive to Tulsa tonight, and it is going to be raining, windy, and dark. You're going to drive differently,
sure,
knowing one or especially all 3 of those things are happening.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive differently because I can't see as well. It's going to be slippery, and it may be pushing me around the road. And so I'm going to drive more defensively.
Yeah.
So I've got these same sorts of threats in my life, and I'm going to in part live defensively.
Well, so you were saying, you said so many things in that thing that gave me more questions, but
that's how it works. Abigail questions and my answers,
right?
Like a hydra.
build more.
Answer
and more
one
on
question,
There's
leave
more.
2 more in its place.
So preparation and being defensive towards things kind of just makes you think of spiritual warfare, and that kind of goes hand in hand with that Ephesians verse of there's practical ways to. You don't have to be a passive character. God doesn't just leave it until once you enter into eternity, then you'll finally be free. He gives you the ability to fight with knowing his word, faith, the idea of eternity, all those things. So kind of, we talked about it a little bit, but kind of dive a little bit more into the fact that we can be active in this and how to actually actively, practically apply that to your life.
Let's just read part of it at least.
Okay.
Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. So those are proactive things. Be strong, put on armor. Those are things that you can do. But armor also does imply defense. You put on armor believing that you are going to be attacked. So it is an active thing that you can do in defense. And so that's really you can be proactive, but being proactive knowing you're about to get punched in the face is not the same as punching something in the face. It is.
Yeah. Well, I also think
shield myself in a proactive. I know it's coming, so I better get my arm up, my head down.
Well, I also think it's saying something that we have to put on armor. It's not just bow up.
Right. Yeah. It is. You're left to your own. You're going to get hurt, severely injured. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you've done everything, to stand. So again, that is not an attack position.
Mm-hmm.
When these things happen, you won't be moved. And when it's over with, you'll still be able to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
This is not anything about proactively what you need to be doing.
Right.
This is something is coming.
You need to be
and when
rooted.
it comes, it's not going to make you go somewhere you don't want to go. It is not telling you to go anywhere, to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to matter. If I forget to come back to it,
Okay.
I need to come back to that. Stand firm then the belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness, feet with the gospel of peace, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And so he's using all of these fairly intangible things.
He being Paul.
Truth, faith, salvation. The most tangible one being the word of God with the sword. All of these kind of intangible things become your armor. And again, all of this armor is a defensive position.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, Paul is not suggesting, I need you to go somewhere. I need you to go out there and attack the devil.
Right.
That is not our mission.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission is to make disciples.
Yeah.
To help people know who Jesus Christ is. So that's my goal. If I've got to go do something, I'm going to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm trying to do that, I am going to get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to be ready to defend myself against the attack.
Yeah.
And so I think where some people who get really into spiritual warfare go, it is my job, it is my mission to attack the devil.
Yeah.
I am in a battle with the devil, and I need to attack and win the devil. No, that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to help you, Abigail, know who Jesus is more and better, so that you can grow in your faith, and so that together we can go tell people who don't know about Jesus how they can have a relationship with him. That is our job. But we now know, hey, while you're trying to do your job, there's going to be active opposition that you need to be ready for. So be defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to learn what peace is. I'm going to learn what truth is. I'm going to understand my salvation. I'm going to have God's word with me, and which is the only weapon that I've got.
Mm-hmm.
But even that is, in a sword fight, a sword also parries blows.
Mm-hmm.
You come at me with your sword,
I can
stop
back.
you with my sword.
Mm-hmm.
And so even that, and again, it doesn't say that if you'll do all that, then you can win and conquer and defeat Satan. It just says, and when the battle happens, you'll still be standing, so that then I can go do the thing that I was called to do.
Yeah.
And so somewhere between, don't worry about it, angels and God have the demon stuff under control. Mm-hmm. And I need to just be actively thinking and about how I can conquer the demons in my life.
Right.
Somewhere between that is be on guard.
Mm-hmm. But I think that honestly kind of connects back to what I previously asked you of the three factors. It's not even really discerning where these attacks came from, but being aware that these three are going to be attacking you. Right. And so the biggest benefit you could do is root yourself really deeply in the armor that he describes. Right. That's the best use of your time, to build yourself up in that way, because those three things are true and you're going to encounter them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that is the easiest to avoid is the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, bro, you live in the world. Yeah, but
realizing its influence on you.
Right, but it's like I know places where the world is trying to I can avoid places where I know for sure the world is trying to get me to go to a bad place.
Yeah.
Again, I use news as an example. I mean, a more tangible one, a strip club.
That was literally what was in my mind.
Because we're surrounded by them right here where we are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
Oh, people need Jesus there. So, well, meet them someplace else.
Yeah.
Even though I know there are people who have had ministries in strip clubs. Anyways,
are you serious?
Yes.
Another episode.
Indeed. It's impossible for me to get away from myself.
Right.
And I can't see the satanic attacks come.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things you can do about that. where I know that there are places that when I'm there, it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to avoid those sorts of places.
Yeah.
Someone who struggles with alcoholism doesn't go to a bar for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, it's just a place of the physical reminder, but then it's a word that I think gets used a lot. I find my demons there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are some places that when you're just there, you feel evil more. You feel the evil around you more than you do in other places. You can easily avoid those places if you choose to. Again, the one that is the most difficult to manage, which again is why I would put it at the top of the enemy's list, is my own heart and mind.
Yeah, the flesh.
The flesh.
Yeah. Well, I thought we would get through more, but we just scratched the surface again, so we're going to have to head into another one.
You calling it right now?
I am.
You're not just the producer.
No, but I'm calling it because I have more questions.
Okay, well then we'll do that. Feel free to join us back again next episode, and we will talk some more Q&As on angels, demons. Thanks for joining us. Abigail, as always, thank you for joining us. And you can find us at thegrovechurch.org. If you go to /connect, find a little form there. Let us know that you're listening. Have any questions, any way we can help you. We'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and please join us next week. Thank you for listening to the Cultivate Podcast. Our hope is that you are taking steps to go deeper in your faith, that you are asking big questions and you're looking for answers. We hope that we can be a resource for you through our podcast and any other way that we can help you. You can find all our episodes anywhere that you can find podcasts, including YouTube. And again, thank you so much for joining us.